a couple of small corrections so you don't think I have too much fortitude. It was actually only 3 years that we were there. But my wife will tell you it still demanded quite a good amount of fortitude, as will my 4 children. I've got 4 kids as well. And I'm just one of the owners of the Welsh Rabbit cheese shop, and happy to be so. But they've invited me here today to talk to you about fortitude. Actually, I'm going to write down just my time to make sure that I don't talk too long. Because we, who also are accustomed to preach, we like to talk for a very, very long time. So I'm going to try not to do that. But I'm here to talk to you about fortitude. And here's how I would like to begin. You, every single one of you, sitting in this room, or standing, teachers and students, administrators all, you are going to fail. How's that? You are going to fail. And you are going to encounter some incredibly difficult times in your life. You're going to suffer. And you're going to hit a point in your life when you are going to be ready to completely give up and give in. The question is not whether you're going to fail, whether failure will come, whether you're going to face conflict. The question is not whether your path is going to lead you into some periods of intense difficulty. Because the answer to that question is yes. That is what's going to happen to each one of you. And many of you could probably say, it has already happened to me. I can already tell you what failure looks like, what suffering, what intense feelings, and the desire to give up can feel like. So that's not the question. The question is, how are you going to respond when those times come? When the failure hits, when the crises come, when the level of life just feels so heavy, you just want to give up and give in. How are you going to respond? You really only have about 3 options in that time. Number 1, you can run and hide. And there are all different kinds of ways of running and hiding. We also simply call it escape and denial. It can be something as small or as simple as just going back to that video game and playing that video game again and again and again. For me, I love reading. I love fiction. I love Harry Potter. And I will go back. My wife knows when I am stressed because what am I doing? I'm reading Harry Potter again because I am trying to escape. It can also go on into your fantasy life, or it can go even into a darker place of addictions, of drugs, of alcohol, and smoking. All ways of escaping the failure, the crises, the suffering that you're experiencing. Another option is just simply to give up. I am just not even going to try. You have a test that's looming. The stress of the test is beginning to build. The fear is building. I'm just not even going to study for it. I'm not even going to try. Is at one extreme. The other extreme is suicide, to be frank. There are many people, and probably a few of you at least in this room, who know what it is to be at a point that you would rather die than go on. And that's giving up. That's another one of the options. The third option is you can simply endure. You can put your head down, grit your teeth, and press on through. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Just plow on through. But what I would call you to is to a 4th option. There's a 4th response when things get difficult, when failure is before you, and when you are ready to give up. Rather than running away, you can step into the challenge. Rather than passively giving up, you can intentionally struggle forward. Rather than merely enduring, you can courageously embrace the pain. In other words, you can choose to demonstrate fortitude. Fortitude. This is one of the capstones, one of the key virtues that is promoted by Liberty Commons. And it's a significant part of the character that your teachers and your principals and all the people here, they want to cultivate in you. And I actually really like the way that the Webster's Dictionary defines fortitude and the way that you've got it quoted on your website. Fortitude is strength or firmness of mind that enables a person to encounter danger with coolness and courage, or to bear pain or adversity without murmuring, depression, or despondency. Listen to that again. Fortitude is strength or firmness of mind that enables a person to encounter danger with coolness and courage, or to bear pain or adversity without murmuring, depression, or despondency. And to help you understand this definition more fully, I'd like to give you a few examples of fortitude that I witnessed while my family and I lived in Uganda in East Africa in the past 3 years. First off, I just want you to see that Uganda is a beautiful place. With the light, it's hard to see this volcano that's rising in the distance with the sun setting behind it. That's what I saw every night as I looked out my window, as I walked on my front porch. It's a volcano called Muhabura. It's a place of incredible beauty. These are my 4 children, standing on the hill, Rururami Hill, where we live, looking out over the beauty of the valley where we live in Uganda. This is this incredible lake called Lake Bunyonyi, the place of 1,000 birds. And 1,000 birds do come there. And they descend on this deep lake with all these islands here of incredible beauty. We would go to this one island called Bushara. It was our getaway, where we would like to go as a family. And the children, you can see, would sit on this dock with all of this beauty in the background. But in the midst of this great beauty, we also lived in the midst of great poverty and hardship. On the way to this astounding lake, this is what we passed. If you can't see it very clearly, it's a woman with 2 children. They're sitting in a quarry. They have a hammer and a chisel. And from morning until night, what they do is they make gravel. They get rocks and they chisel away to make gravel. The majority of Ugandans live in situations like this. Situations that are so difficult that they are beyond description. And each day, what they wake up with is their primary concern is, how will I eat today? And how will my family eat today? When you greet a Ugandan in the morning, your typical greeting is, how was the night? What's hidden in that comment is, did anyone die last night? Because they're expecting the answer to be, the night was not good. Because most of the time they expect at least one of their family members to die during the night. It's a harsh life. Again, this is the beauty of Uganda. And down here is the village called Kabale, which is where my family and I lived. Incredible beauty. But when you walk down into Kabale, you see how they and we walk in the gritty reality of the harshness of life. But they also yearn and hope for something more than that. Mostly for them, it is a hope for a better education, for themselves and for their children. But for them, it's an education which is not free. Even at the elementary school level, they have to pay to go to school. So they break rocks, they farm fields, they beg, they borrow, they do whatever they have to do in order to scrape together enough money to get their kids or themselves to school. So they live here, and they work here in these fields, so that they or their kids can go here to a very simple school ground with dirt where they want to live. That one little strawberry blonde girl, that's mine. But not all the kids have parents who will work and strive and find ways to send them to school. This is a friend of mine named Gracious Kasigwa. Pardon his shirt. It's the only white shirt that he has, and he's required to wear a white shirt at school. He found this one in a market somewhere for a few cents, so that's what he wears. Gracious, his parents, his mother and his father died when he was very young. So he was sent to live with his grandmother and his grandfather, who both died about a year later. And he was then sent to live with his aunt. Gracious is from a Christian family. His aunt is from a Muslim family. And his aunt is also very poor and has 2 daughters and no husband. So she has no interest in making sure that Gracious gets an education. Now, the interesting thing about Gracious, even though his aunt is refusing to provide for him, is the way that he has chosen to respond to this hardship, the way that he has chosen to respond to this difficulty. Many other kids I've met like Gracious on that street in Kabbalah. And what are they doing? They are running and escaping. They are just sniffing glue. They're sitting in the streets. They're not looking for any way to better themselves. All that they do is they sit and they wait for a tourist to come by, and then they see the white people like me, and they shout, "Hey, Muzungu, Muzungu, you give me money! You give me money, Muzungu!" Muzungu means, "Hey, whitey, come here, give me money." That's all that they would do. Gracious, however, works anytime, any place he can find an opportunity to get a job. He'll do it. And slowly he is getting enough money where he can buy just little small saplings of trees. And he's taking those trees, and he has this little field that was given to him by someone, and he's planting them there. Do you know how long it's going to take before those trees grow so that he can cut them and sell them? It's going to be about 15 to 20 years. But he's looking beyond his immediate circumstance into the future with a hope for something more. And when you meet him, this guy never asked me once for money. As a white man and a reverend, I would be asked for money more times a week than I even care to count, coming to my porch. Not once did Gracious ever ask me for money. He asked for friendship. He would spend time. And he would take opportunities as soon as they came. And out of that lifestyle of pursuing friendships, of pursuing every opportunity that would come up and not giving up, not hiding, not letting go of life, but pressing into the challenges, he actually met people who provided money for him to go to school. He's in high school. He should graduate in about 2 years. And I have great hopes for the kind of man that he is becoming and that he will become. If I had time, I would want to talk to you about all these different men and women that had great fortitude in this culture. Miserero Sam and his wife Agatha, who is a carpenter who has very little money, but every day he takes his hammer and his saw and he goes out and he looks for work to build something else so he can support his family. And he finds young men who don't have jobs, and he trains them to be carpenters as well. I wish I could talk to you about this man here. These two guys who look like children because they're so small, they're called Batwa. They're pygmies. And the one in the black shirt is Safari. The one in the yellow is Jotham. Safari and his people were forced off of their land in Uganda to make room for guerrillas. But the Batwa were given no place to live that they were used to living. His response was to become a murderer, to hide in the woods and to kill anybody who would come into the jungle to try and force him off. He encountered Jesus. His life was completely transformed and changed, and now he is a man who has faced up to his crimes, has been pardoned, and continues to work for the betterment of his people. These are some of his people here. This is Clement, a man who wakes up at 3 o'clock every morning to begin selling vegetables, walks up and down the hills, and by the end of the day, he's at my porch selling me vegetables and falling asleep because of his exhaustion. But he's always doing it with a smile on his face. This is my wife. If I had time, I would talk to you about the exhaustion behind her eyes and the fortitude she has had to demonstrate in raising a family in Uganda. But what I want to just close in talking about these people who are courageous, unyielding, kind, uncomplaining, who are demonstrating fortitude, that these people who show strength and firmness of mind, encountering danger with coolness and courage, bearing pain and adversity without murmuring, depression, and despondency, who live daily in great difficulty, yet press forward with courage, hope, and with spirit, that kind of fortitude is not unique to Ugandans. It can be a defining element to your character as well. You develop fortitude, and if I had time, I would want to elaborate on each of these, but let me just put these words into your mind. 4 streams for developing fortitude. Number 1, when the difficult times come, remember, it is not the end. When you fail, when the crisis comes, when the pain hits, when the heaviness of life comes on you, remember, it is not the end. There is something beyond of great goodness and beauty that you can press forward into and find on the other side. And in fact, in the very act of pressing forward with fortitude, you're going to be shaped into becoming even more of the person you were created to be. Remember, it is not the end. Number 2, remember who you are. This is something you have to develop now before the crisis comes. A clear understanding of your identity as a person of value, of a person with a future, of a person with an identity in who you are as an American, and as a person who is created in the image of God. Know who you are, because that will determine how you respond in a time of crisis. Number 3, remember that you are part of a bigger story. There's something bigger than just you that is going on. There is a purpose in your life that is going to press you through this incredibly difficult time and call you out into a place of transforming and shaping other people's lives. And remember that you are not alone. Fortitude requires the company of others to encourage you, to cheer and shout as you try to do push-ups for 2 minutes, to stand with you in the darkest times of your life. You need people. Remember, it is not the end. Remember who you are. Remember you're a part of a bigger story. And remember you are not alone. And as you remember these things in the time of crisis, your next step will become clear. And you can step into the challenge. You can intentionally struggle forward and courageously embrace the pain. You can become a person who lives daily in great difficulty, yet presses forward with courage, hope, and with spirit. You can be a person of fortitude. Thank you. southwesternmost part of Uganda, almost to Rwanda and Congo. A place of incredible beauty, as you saw. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
What made you decide to go there and when?
I'm sorry?
What made you decide to go there and when?
What made us decide to go there and when? What made us decide to go there was in 2001, 2002, my family and I moved out to Pennsylvania for me to study at seminary. We ended up living next door to two East African priests, one from Kenya and one from Uganda. And these were two men of such remarkable integrity and courage, and for me, two men who had an authentic relationship with Jesus in a way that I had not seen before. My wife even said to me, when you grow up, I want you to be like them. And so something was created in us of wanting to be around these people even more. So even though, as he introduced, we went as missionaries, really our heart was, we want to be around these East Africans and become more like them, as well as share some of the gifts that we gave. So we actually went in September of 2010. Any other questions? They're beginning to come. Yes, sir?
When did you arrive back in America?
We arrived back in America just this past May. So we're still adjusting to life back in the United States. Yes, sir?
How was the education?
How was the education for the children? Very, very difficult. It's a very difficult standard that they use. They use an old version of English, British teaching styles. And so it's very focused on rote memorization. My kids, they don't support critical thinking at all. They want you to give back exactly word for word everything that they gave to you. You missed one word, even if critically you got the idea, you missed the whole thing. So it's very difficult in that perspective for my kids who have a lot of creativity and energy, but they were locked down to a tight place for them. And it's also a system which still uses corporal punishment for their students, which is difficult for our students were not allowed to be punished. My children were not, but it was very difficult for them to be present to that kind of corporal punishment. Yes?
Did all your kids go to the same school?
They did. We were grateful for that. They went to a school called Anglican Primary School. Yes?
So, did the local punishment thing with other kids go?
They did. They might get smacked upside the head, or their ears turned, or in our school, the headmistress would not allow caning, but it did happen in other schools. Yes? Good question. Uganda is very interesting in that Uganda is made up of many different tribal groups, and so they need one, and each one of them has their own language. And so they needed one language to unify them for being able to communicate together. And because of historical reasons, what they actually ended up choosing was English. So education actually happens in English, which makes it easier for the kids. In our area where we live, the tribe was called the Bachiga, and the language that they spoke was Ruchika. Another question.
How old was Gracious when you met him?
How old was Gracious? Yes, thank you. Gracious to see, when I met him, he was 13 years old. He was 16 at the time. Yes?
What's the time difference here and there?
8 hours. So it's 8 hours later there right now. Yeah, made it difficult to communicate back at home. In the back, yes?
Is there a strong sense of community in Uganda where families helping each other in different times?
Very good question. Yes, there really was a strong sense of community. And even he asked, was there a strong sense of community among the families there and helping each other through difficult times? That's the only way they can survive. If they don't have this strong network of relationships with family, they can't survive. So it is very strong. And even to the point that you don't know, if I ask you, who's your aunt? They say, she's my aunt. But I don't know how they would call her an aunt, because she's not the sister of their father. There's some other circuitous way of how she's become an aunt. But they're very close-knit as a community. A lot that we learn from them about that. Yes?
How long have you been a pastor?
How long have I been a pastor? Thank you. I've been a pastor, I've been officially ordained as a pastor since 2008. Yes, but that's 2014. 6 years, thank you, something like that. Yes?
Okay, I have two questions.
Yes.
How did it influence you, and then when you came back to the United States, how did you influence others if you're traveling to Uganda? And my second question is, do you have any relatives in the audience, like maybe a niece or?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I do happen to have, I'll answer that one first. I do happen to have two relatives in the audience, a niece and a nephew. So I'm two that I'm very proud to claim as my own, whom I don't want to embarrass by calling out. But they are a remarkable young man and woman who actually, speaking of fortitude, I have seen both of them demonstrate that fortitude in their lives. And in answer to the other question about the influence, I know the time's short, but to be brief, it'd be hard to capture it all as far as how I was influenced. But for me in particular, I would say two things. One, it created me an incredible dependency on God, of realizing that I cannot, for me in terms of fortitude and knowing who I am, man, I have got to be reliant on someone greater and more powerful than I am to carry me through these difficult times. And two, kind of tying in with this other young man's question, the importance of community, of being networked and integrated together with an incredible interdependence is an essential part of what I learned of being there.
Uganda, was in prison for 27 years for protesting racism, yet he remained steadfast to his dream to end apartheid in South Africa. It always seems impossible until it's done. And my favorite, Michael Jordan. Though he was cut from his high school basketball team, he persevered to become arguably one of the best NBA players of all time. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeeded. And Thomas Edison. He failed many times while inventing light bulb, but he never gave up and eventually succeeded. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. To see more, visit Mr. Felice's room in the near future when we get it printed out and stuff.
I'm up here to present our foundation stone award. This is, as you probably know, this is where we give to an outstanding middle school student. So, as you may or may not know, I love to make fun of 7th and 8th graders. I have for many years. A lot of us do. But the fact of the matter is, you know, our middle school students are always some of the most outstanding in the city every year. And honestly, it seems to get better all the time. Which makes it even harder to just gather together and pick just one outstanding student for the month. But as the teachers got together, we discussed the students. Some of the words that came up were hardworking, positive, humble, which is why she'll be really embarrassed probably to get this award, because she really probably doesn't want any attention in this way. Although you get jeans passes and a Qdoba gift card, so it does pay to have a good character. That's not why she does it. As we talked about it, we just all seem to agree the student is just mature beyond her years. I one time read that to be a success in anything, all you need to do is do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you like it or not. And I would also add, with a smile and a positive attitude. And this student perfectly defines that characteristic. So congratulations to Emma DeHarsh.
Next we have Mr. Lovely.
Capstone Award is presented to one amazing high school student for character education assembly. And as some of you may or may not know, we have these public information nights. Some of you may have come to them from time to time, and we had one this last Monday. And we talk about the philosophy of the school, the history of the school, what we're all about, and who we are. And as we extol the benefits of our kindergarten through 8th grade program, you can imagine families that are coming in to be part of our 9th grade wondering, will my student be successful with all of these other students who have had such an amazing education, kindergarten through 8th grade? Can you see how that would be a question that a parent might ask? Does that make sense? A parent asked that question, and immediately this student came to mind as somebody who has come in to our high school, came in the 9th grade, and has done amazingly well, and has been, quite frankly, a fabulous addition to our student body. This young man has been my Algebra 1 student in 9th grade. He's in my pre-calculus class as a senior, and I don't recall a time one here and there. He's hardly ever missing an assignment, and in my classes, that's tough to do. He works incredibly hard and demonstrates a level of fortitude that inspires me, and the challenge is always maintaining a positive attitude. He's incredibly polite and respectful, even when he's frustrated. We all get frustrated, but sometimes some of us have difficulty being polite and respectful in the midst of frustration. And he's demonstrated a significant amount of temperance in that. He is incredibly loyal to his friends. He's kind-hearted. He's willing to help. And he really balances his needs with others. He really puts other people's needs in front of his own, thus demonstrating our capstone of justice. I recognize in him an inner strength that I truly do admire. And I'm not alone in this. Mrs. Lannon commented that this young man has demonstrated the character quality of gratitude on numerous occasions. He's expressed gratitude for the education he is receiving at LCHS, not only by his words, but also by his actions. He often demonstrates genuine enthusiasm for the topics being taught. "Wow, this is cool," he often says. "Thank you." And he even has taken time to write pen and paper thank yous on multiple occasions. His attitude is very positive and optimistic. He's demonstrated fortitude in adapting to liberty, as well as persevering during the robotics competition last year when a robot was not working well. And I know I'm not alone to say that Isaac Gens has an inner strength that I truly, truly like.